It's time for my most scrutinised video of the year. Here are my 2024-25 Championship predictions. With no blind faith whatsoever, let's go. For unique Championship content all season, this is the place to be. If you haven't yet subscribed, please do that. We're on the road to 10,000 subscribers. And of course, it wouldn't be a prediction video without saying give yours in the comments down below, because as always, it gets pretty heated. In 24th place, I've gone with Blackburn Rovers. With a lot of these predictions, I'm looking at the manager, the summer transfer window, the squad quality, and actually the general consensus of the people that adore the football club. And at this moment in time, Blackburn dramatically fall short in too many of those elements. John Eustace is a good manager at this level, but beyond that, I see a lot of trouble. The summer recruitment has been almost non-existent. The squad has not changed from the one that very nearly got relegated last time out. The fans are quite rightly really worried. The only shining light at this moment in time is that saviour Sammy Smolix hasn't officially left the football club yet, but at the time of watching this, that could have changed. I've got Blackburn bottom of the Championship. In 23rd, I've gone with Plymouth. Now, the aim for Plymouth will be exactly the same as last season. Stay in the Championship and actually regain the trust within the football club. They've appointed Wayne Rooney. I don't get why. He apparently interviewed quite well, but so did Ian Foster, and that really did not work out for Plymouth. His managerial reputation since he left Derby 2 years ago is really quite poor. On the flip side, this Plymouth squad has real talent. Morgan Whittaker, the obvious name. I actually think their recruitment into the foreign market has been quite exciting this summer. But I come back to his coaching and making the big decisions and the key decisions through the campaign. There just isn't enough evidence to suggest Wayne Rooney has the tactical awareness, but importantly, flexibility to keep Plymouth in the Championship. I've got them in 23rd place. In 22nd, I've gone Watford. Now, this may come as a surprise and perhaps an overreaction that we look back on in May and laugh about, but I've got some really dangerous doubts about Watford at the moment. So often we focus on the pitch when putting together our predictions, but it's actually the instability and muddled environment upstairs that I think could cost Watford a place in the division. The recruitment has been very slow so far. The squad remains short in key areas, and although Tom Cleverley did well in that short period last season, he's only as good as the tools he has in front of him and the direction put in place above him. I think Cleverley could turn into a bit of a scapegoat for things completely out of his control, and very quickly things could turn sour. I hope it works out. The fresh ideas stylistically look promising. We've seen in pre-season there's much more of a front-footed intention being installed, but I think those people at board level could let this football club down significantly. And I've got Watford in one of my relegation places, the final relegation place this season. In 21st place, just staying up, I've got Cardiff City. Now, Bullet did a great job at Cardiff last season. The 12th place finish was well deserved, but I do see a drop off this time around. It's the uninspiring goal threat that concerns me at Cardiff. Last season's loanee Colin Grant finished as top goal scorer with just 6 goals, finishing the campaign with the third worst XG. They're in desperate need for some creation and firepower, because I've got a horrible feeling we'll be sitting here in May and saying they just didn't score enough goals, and those fine margin wins we saw last season just disappeared. I've got Cardiff staying up just in 21st. In 20th, I've gone with Derby County. Now, I've seen a few people write this Derby team off, and we'll come on to those reasons in just a second. I can see them, but I like their recruitment, especially midfield, where I think they've added quite a bit of dynamic profile. The permanent signings of Ebu Adams alongside the additions of Kenzo and Ozzo really strike a balance of energy and technical ability, which at the Championship level is more crucial than ever. Of course, Paul Warne's record in the division isn't great, and at times the style of play isn't great either, but I think it's a better squad, it's got a better balance, and it's supported by a fan base that are desperate to see Derby County compete at this level again. They might be written off, but I've got a feeling Derby might spring some surprises. I've got them in 20th place. In 19th place, I've gone with Oxford United. Who'd have thought that? Oxford United staying up this season. Now, blind faith, perhaps a little, but I think I've got some valid reasoning. I'm going to back the boys. So far, our summer recruitment has been really good. That includes new additions, key players signing new long-term contracts, and the start of a squad being built under a very intelligent young manager in Des Buckingham. Quality in depth and different options, I think, will be the difference between success and failure for Oxford this season. Being able to change, adapt and become flexible against better quality of opposition is going to be more important than ever. I think it's the route we've gone down. There's still work to be done, especially in the attacking areas, I think Oxford will be happy to be underdogs, just like they were against Bolton at Wembley in the playoff final. That worked out pretty well for them. Write us off and let us prove you wrong. I think that'll be the message from Des Buckingham this season. I've got Oxford staying up in 19th place. Brave. Let's go with it. In 18th, I've gone with Preston North End. It's been slow progression for Ryan Lowe so far at Preston, but this season, I've got a feeling it could be different. The drop-off in results and performances at the back end of last season were disturbing, and actually, when you look at the underlying numbers through the entire season, Preston did have their red flags. They finished the season with the second lowest expected goals, the second lowest shots on target per 90, and the second lowest big chances created. If those trends continue, Preston will be in big trouble and they will be caught out. That squad is crying out for injection of young, fearless hunger, because the more I assess it, the more I look at it, it's starting to give aspects of staleness, and that can be dangerous. Very, very quickly, staleness can drag a team backwards. I've got Preston staying up, but in 18th place. In 17th, I've gone with the final new boy. It's Portsmouth. I think Pompey will be the most comfortable out of the three promoted sides. Last season, they were just impeccable, weren't they? I loved John Messina's message to his players in pre-season. Treat this championship campaign as an opportunity to express your true footballing talent against some very, very good sides. Along with most championship clubs, their summer window has been fairly slower, but I think Josh Murphy's a player on fire right now. Jordan Williams is a very sensible pickup, and Silvera has got plenty to prove at this level on loan from Middlesbrough. I expect more, especially in the midfield area, but as a baseline, I think it's smart business. I'm intrigued to see how the brilliant John Messina adapts his approach to the championship season, because in League One it was about control and lots of work with the ball, whereas this season we're going to see Pompey work a lot more out of possession. That's not to say it won't be a good brand of football, it just means tactically there'll be a bit more flexibility. I think the quicker Portsmouth adapt to that change, I think the quicker they'll really start surprising teams at this level. I think comfortable, staying up, Pompey in 17th. In 16th, I've gone with Stoke City. Now, Stoke are in desperate need of a calm season of just stabilisation. No sackings, no fallouts, no terrible runs of form, just calmness. It might sound boring, but I think this season will be about Stoke figuring out exactly what they are under Steven Schumacher. Form an identity, understand the direction, and see where the campaign takes them. I know, like all football fans, we want to win every game, compete, challenge at the top end of the league table, but sometimes it's safer to grow slightly more organically and patiently. And under Steven Schumacher, I think that will turn out successfully. The squad does have talent and the recruitment so far looks good, but with Stoke, let's not go over the top, let's walk before we can run and start building something with some proper foundation. Let's find out. Stoke, I've got them in 16th. In 15th, I've gone with Hull City. Hull have lost some really key players this summer, and with that serious lack of depth, a slightly nervous fan base, add that with a totally new manager who's never managed in the country before, I've got a few concerns. The owners replaced Rossini with Tim Volta. That was a big call. A shift in style was wanted, and let's be honest, looking at it, Tim Volta definitely does give you a quite dramatic stylistic change, but this needs time to work out. I'm not sure Tim Volta is being given the tools yet. All of last season's prominent attacking options are gone. Plenty of gaps in the middle. Hull's best central defender in Jacob Greaves has been sold. There's a lot of work to do, and let's be honest, a very short amount of time. I still think there's enough baseline quality in that squad, so I'm not going to go overboard and make any rash predictions, and things can happen. It's less than 2 weeks until the start of the season, but the window, of course, goes on longer than that. I just see a few too many red flags that could lead to a slip down the table. In 14th, I've gone with Queen's Park Rangers. Super Marty Cifuentes is the biggest reason why I've got QPR so high, because I just totally trust the bloke. I'm getting the vibe this is the first time in a very long time most QPR fans are optimistic about a season. And when you look at the improvements that Marty made after he arrived, you can see just why that's the case. Last season, from January until the end, only 3 teams got more points than QPR. In their final 10 games, they picked up 17 points. With Christian Uri as CEO, he's 26 by the way, which is ridiculous. The recruitment this summer has definitely been shifted to a more data approach. I really like the signing of Zan Sila up top. Dare I say it, things are starting to come together at Loftus Road. It's a danger statement because we've been here before, but I like what I see. The question going into the season will be, what type of football will Marty have QPR playing? Will it continue being slightly more intelligently reserved, or will the handbrake come off slightly? I guess it comes down to the business that happens later on in the window, but so far so good on that front. Either way, I trust the man to make the right call. He's just so switched on. I've got QPR in 14th place. In 13th, I've gone with Swansea City. I'm feeling weirdly optimistic about Swansea this season. I think they might surprise a few people. The addition of Lawrence Vigouroux is fantastic, whilst the additions of Franco and Ji-sung arrived with fantastic foreign market pedigree. I still expect more, but so far the recruitment looks really forward-thinking. Now, addressing the number 9 position is the next biggest thing on the agenda. My prediction almost believes they will address that area, because last season their top goal scorer was a fullback, and that is not a sustainable source of goals. But in Luke Williams, I believe he's an honest guy who will know the areas of weakness, and importantly, he'll know how to nail down his principles that served him so well at Notts County. I like Luke Williams. I like the recruitment. There's still work to be done, but I think they'll do that work. Swansea City, I've got finishing in 13th place. In 12th place, I've gone with Millwall. Look, it's all about their summer transfer window for me. It's really exciting. They've shown aggression, they've shown intelligence and a real ambition. Lucas Jensen was phenomenal in League One last season. Statistically, the best goalkeeper in the division. We're talking about the highest XG prevented, the highest save percentage, and interestingly, the most big chances created by a goalkeeper too. Millwall fans know all about Tanganga and in Mikuli Langstaff getting a prolific goal scorer at every level he's played at. Look, things have to come together and they have to gel. There's no guarantee that every new player is going to hit the ground running, but it's a slightly different approach to previous windows, and one that I think could serve Millwall really well. And of course, they've got Neil Harris as well, so it's a perfect marriage. Millwall in 12th place. I can see it. In 11th, I've gone with Sheffield Wednesday. You couldn't find a team with a more contrasting summer from the last one, could you? Sheffield Wednesday and Danny Röhl have attacked this summer window and look in really promising shape. I'm always very wary of jumping on teams that have done a lot of business, because sometimes it takes time to gel. It might not come together straight away, and if it does, brilliant. If not, lay the foundations. That would be the message I would be providing to Sheffield Wednesday during these predictions. From the use of the foreign markets, the re-signing of young goalkeeper James Beadle, Danny has been given the keys, and I've really enjoyed them building and constructing this squad and adding to the existing quality that is no doubt still within this team as well. After last season, I think deep down Sheffield Wednesday fans will be looking for stability. It's very easy to look at all these new players and start getting a little bit too excited. Be excited, but just be wary. Understand there is now a sense of direction, and the journey that Danny Röhl is going on is really, really fun. If it all comes together, I might be undercooking Wednesday. I might be undercooking a Sheffield Wednesday season. I can see vast improvements. I have total faith in the coaching staff. I just expect a bit more time for things to click. I could be wrong. I've got Sheffield Wednesday in 11th place. In 10th place, I've gone with Sunderland. It can't be argued this Sunderland squad is oozing with young, somewhat raw, but undoubted talent. If anything, last season would have exposed the inexperienced group to some harsh lessons. The question is, have they learnt from those lessons, and will we see a bit more maturity in their development as the season unfolds? In Reggie Labrie, they've got a manager that I think has some really exciting fresh ideas and a style that aligns with the current strategy, developing younger players, working with a smaller budget maybe at points, but a total unknown at this level with recent mixed reviews in France, of course, does plant some doubt. No reliable striker remains a concern. The reliance on goals from the wider players and the creators, to be honest, in this squad, that might be the answer. Again, I think relying on that again could be a bit dangerous, but we'll wait and see. I expect an improvement and definitely a season of important progression, but a few too many question marks in key areas I think will stop them just finishing in the playoffs. I've got them in the top 10 in 10th. In 9th place, I've gone with Norwich City. Ben Napper wanted to make a change and knew exactly the direction he wanted to take. I don't think it will be a quick journey, hence the prediction, but one that could take Norwich further than ever before. A young, exciting coach with rave reviews from Scandinavia has arrived in Johannes Hoff Thorup. He might be unknown, but has a fantastic record of developing young players and not working with huge financial strength. And the style of play is really exciting as well. The squad does remain light in important areas and could actually become lighter if some key star men depart. We'll wait and see. At the moment, the rumours do suggest they could be staying, so that could be an issue for the final weeks of the window. But as with all projects, I don't think this stage Thorpe can fully instill his forward-thinking ideology, so it might be a case of one step back to take 2 steps forward. Having said that, I think the league position might be lower, but the eye test will paint a very different picture with plenty of key stylistic and cultural changes. I see Norwich in 9th spot. In 8th, I've gone with West Brom. Now, this is where it gets a little bit tight, because I think West Brom have improved their team. They haven't lost anyone of real importance, and in Carlos Corberán, they've got one of, if not the best coaches in the league. So, on face value, this prediction seems a bit strange, but I've got 2 doubts. My first concern is the depth of this squad. That starting 11 is really strong, but I think they could do with a bit more. My biggest concern is them losing Carlos Corberán during the season. I understand that these predictions are as of right now, but I think it would be naive to think that there won't be big interest after that first wave of Premier League sackings in around October, November time. It's cruel, but I think sometimes we have to look at the realistic scenarios that could happen as the season unfolds. You keep Carlos, you utilise the quality in that squad, and we come back and laugh at this prediction. You're in the top 6 comfortably, and you're in the Premier League. But the flip side of that, you've got a very, very good manager that's already been looked at by, I imagine, a lot of football clubs. You've just about kept hold of him. It's about keeping it that way. In 7th place, I've gone with Bristol City. Through gritted teeth, I think Liam Manning will take Bristol City to the next level this season. And after years of mid-table being their home, finally they'll push on towards a serious playoff finish. I know firsthand what Liam Manning could do after a full pre-season. When he has the time to use his micromanagement, it can transform players. Inconsistency was the biggest issue for Manning when he arrived at Bristol City. It was clear what he wanted to do, but shifting the style completely midway through the campaign was a challenge. But like he did at Oxford, vast improvements will come over the summer, not just with new players, but with the current ones too. The signings of Max Bird, this thing is fantastic. Malulu is an absolute unit. St Clair Armstrong provides something very, very different. It's always brave trusting Bristol City with a top-end finish, but I think something feels a bit different here. I've got them aggressively knocking on the top 6 door in 7th place. In 6th, I've gone with Sheffield United. If I was doing these predictions 2 weeks ago, things would be very different at Sheffield United, but the business in the last week has impressed me a lot. Kiefer Moore is a great striker at this level. He does need service, but he will finish chances. Callum O'Hare is a great creator. The fullback positions look much stronger, especially with Harrison Burrows arriving from Peterborough. I'll be honest, I like the additions at Bramwell Lane. I really, really do. It's been well documented that this does feel like a fresh start at United, and a cultural change is on the cards, with some fresh, young talent now being given the opportunity to impress. Ollie Arblaster, Harrison Burrows, to name just a couple there. There is now a chance to give those talents a key role now, so they're ready for the years to come. The majority of Sheffield United fans are behind Chris Wilder and believe he's the right man to provide this rebuild again, and so do I. I think they'll finish inside the top 6. In 5th, I've gone with Luton Town. Now, Luton were really tough to predict because for the first time in a very long time, they'll be strong favourites in most games. They've lost Ross Barkley, as expected. They've replaced him with Shamden Baptiste, which I think is a good move. I still think they're short in the middle, but with Luton, they're so well run, you trust them. They will strengthen further in that area. The attacking options look really well stacked. So far, they've kept hold of everyone. So Rob Edwards has plenty of options in the final third. And of course, in Rob Edwards, Luton have a fantastic coach who knows this squad like the back of his hand and would have learned so much from his time as a Premier League manager. That has to be remembered as well. And I think that's the same with the playing group too. They haven't lost many players. You look at that period in the top flight and you hope they've matured and developed to a point now where they feel super confident at championship level. It's a basic point, but I think one that has to be notified. I do think some other squads look slightly stronger from top to bottom, but generally I think Luton will be comfortably in the playoffs come the end of the season. In fourth place, I've gone with Middlesbrough. I am really excited about this Middlesbrough team. I think they could be one of my strongest teams to watch this season. Last season, they started really poorly. It took time to adjust to players leaving, or when they started to adjust, injuries tore that squad apart. But I think Michael Carrick is a really, really good manager. And with a settled squad, maybe a few more additions on loan in the final weeks of the window, he could take this team extremely far, playing a bloody entertaining brand of football. It's a really good brand of football that we saw a lot in his first time in charge at Middlesbrough. Perhaps the lows of last season will be huge learning curves this time around, and when you talk about a young developing manager and a young squad too, that's not the end of the world. I'm excited about Borough. I think they could be up for a really good season. I've got Middlesbrough in fourth place. In third place, I've gone with Coventry City, a top quality manager. A strong summer of recruitment adds what was already a very well-built championship squad. Optimism is high at Coventry, and I can see why. The quality is absolutely all over that squad. Ben Sheaf looks like he's going to be staying. Jack Raduni has joined the club. Sakamoto is one of the most exciting wide players in the division. Mason Clark contributed to 21 goals in League One last season, and up top, they've got plenty of options as well. They look in absolutely brilliant shape. I think recruiting slightly less was always the plan this summer. It was about keeping hold of most players and adding the flashes of extra quality where needed. And when you look and assess that approach, that's exactly what they've done. Everybody has trust in Mark Robins, not just Coventry fans. Everybody trusts Mark Robins and knows how good of a manager he is. And when I predict Coventry's position this season, he's the reason why I think it'll all come together and it'll be a season to remember. Coventry, I've got you in third. In second place, I've gone with Leeds United. It was unbearably difficult picking the order of my top two, but I've gone with Leeds in second. Just look at that attack, the speed, the technical ability, the options. It's got to be up there, one of the best and most dangerous front lines this division has seen. In the middle, I think there's a bit more work to be done. The re-signing of Joe Roden, though, is a magnificent piece of business. My only doubt, and it's very, very small, Leeds fans might disagree with it, but I'm not absolutely 100% sold on Daniel Farke. His record in the Championship is great. The points tally last season was great too. He's a very good manager. At Leeds, I'm not fully there yet. I'm not going to give a percentage, but I'm not 110% there. I think there's going to be a few weird decisions here and there that could lead them to trouble. I might be being a bit picky. He might guide this brilliant Leeds squad to the title with utter comfort. I hope he does. But at times, I feel he can mismanage smaller details. I could be wrong, and either way, I still think Leeds will be fine in getting back to the Premier League. That's my only doubt, because the squad is beautiful. It's oozing with fantastic players. I've got them in second place. In first place, top spot, champions in my eyes, I've gone with Burnley. I just look at that Burnley squad and think, wow, that squad is ridiculously strong for this level. The age profile is exciting. There's an abundance of hungry, exciting options in all departments, plenty of speed, tons of ability, and also a bit of experience too. I still look at having the players like Nathan Redmond around the place, Jay Rodriguez, Gudmundsson. These players can't be understated either. The balance has to be right. I think at Burnley, although it is a very young squad, it just about is right. They'll need to trim that squad because having too many players can be dangerous. But I think it's a case of Scott Parker being new, assessing every option he has. And let's be honest, it's going to take him a while because there's plenty. And talking of Scott Parker, well, the football might not always be front-footed, but he's a regular promoter, a serial promoter, as Tom said in the last video from the Championship. And I think he's got a point to prove. I come back to my prediction criteria. The manager at this level, the record, speaks for itself. It's a big tick. The summer transfer window is a tick. The general squad quality is a very big tick. And finally, the optimism surrounding the club. I think every element looks really, really strong. I've got Burnley as my champions.